早安，各位来宾 ，Good morning, ladies and gentlemen。很高兴今天又在这里看到大家来参加我们第2天的论坛。那我们论坛即将开始，那需要语音翻译的来宾，再麻烦你们带上你们的语音翻译机。频道0是中文，那频道2是英文。And our forum is start in a minute, so please wear your headphone for translation and Chinese. Channel 0 for Chinese and Channel 2 for English. Thank you for the cooperation. 那也提醒各位，我们论坛期间禁止饮食、录音、录影。The audio and the video recordings is prohibited during the forum, and no food and drink in the forum. Thank you very much. 那我们论坛现在即将开始。今天是2016艺术银行国际趋势论坛的第2天。我们探讨的主题是艺术作为文化外交利器。那今天将会有2场演讲的一个分享，以及论坛最后我们有一个综合座谈，也请各位来宾呢可以一起参与到我们最后。那首先我们要先进行第1场演讲，是邀请到美国国务院艺术大使馆资深策展人 Sarah Tanguy 女士。那以美国驻外使馆艺术展览专案，以视觉艺术建立沟通和开启对话为题作为分享。那有请到我们台北市立美术馆的林平馆长来为我们主持。那我们首先掌声有请林馆长上台。
馆长，各位来宾，我们从世界各地来的非常重要的艺术中介者还有在现场的观众，大家早。我想大家会这么早就来，愿意听演讲，尤其是在周末这么美好的夏日，那个阳光，我想你们一定是艺术的热爱者。我想我要介绍的这一场，这个 Sarah Tanguy 的这个内容呢，我先要让你们知道一下它的背景。虽然手册上有讲了但是它特别吸引我的地方，其实她是一个外交官的女儿。我想从很小的生活里面，她应该就知道，有关于国界这件事情，还有关于文化的交流，其实没有国界的这件事情，让她儒养了解到艺术可能具有的潜能。那他在目前的工作里面呢，帮全世界各地重要的美国的大使馆或外馆进行这个展览的策划。他说到目前为止已经做了100多个展览了，但是他刚刚才告诉我，亲身告诉我，让我非常惊讶。他说他有的时候同时要处理4、5个展览，然后他有一种感觉，他就好像跳进了游泳池里面，然后你还不知道那个游泳池里面有没有水。你就可以想象，一个策展人，他其实要有高度的敏感度，知道他在什么样的环境，应该要带出什么样的议题，然后如何去拣选最关键、具有影响力的作品，还要让这些作品交织起来，发出信息。那在这个过程里面呢，他不只要认识美国文化本身、艺术家的发展，同时他对于他在地的区域的艺术家，也要进行一种深入的了解。这样子的一个，他本身就像是艺术的大使的身份呢，我想由他来谈艺术在这个外交的这样的一个作用里面，应该是非常精彩的。不过他刚刚告诉我说，他也不太想讲那么多有关于国家品牌这件事情，他可能真正想讲的是有关于艺术的力量。好，那我想我就不占用时间，我们用最巨大的掌声欢迎他。
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm very excited to be here, and I very much thank the organizers of this forum for inviting me to come and participate. And thank you also for that wonderful introduction. It is true that I am the daughter of a diplomat, often called a Foreign Service brat in the United States, because most people think of us as very spoiled. because we've had all these privileges. I have to say for me, as you correctly pointed out, it made me immediately aware from a very young age about the importance of bridging different cultures and creating mutual respect and understanding. As it turns out, my father was Consul General in Penang, Malaysia, and that's where I was born. My first language was, my baby language was Cantonese, because I had a Chinese ama. And then my father's last overseas post was the Netherlands, and there, my second year, I studied Chinese calligraphy. So when I was given the assignment to help put the art in the American Institute of Taiwan in Taipei, I thought, wow, this is very strange. I'm coming all the way around the world again as now an older person, but somewhere very special. I feel like I'm coming home. So again, it's a great honor to be here today. So my concept for today is to give you a little bit of background on the Art and Embassies program, then talk about our 3 areas of concentration and give examples. I'm going to try to move the chair now. So Art and Embassies, which I will refer to as AIE from now on. Art and Embassies was initiated by the Museum of Modern Art in 1953 during the Cold War. And then 10 years later, under President John F. Kennedy, we became an official office of the U.S. State Department. Then and now our focus is creating cultural connections, and we play a vital role in U.S. diplomatic policies. Our core mission is to cultivate cross-cultural exchange among international audiences by giving them a sense of the quality, the diversity, and the scope of U.S. art and artists, as well as those of our host countries. As you can see from this map, our reach is very broad. We are a public-private partnership, and we engage in over 20,000 participants globally, including artists, museums, galleries, foundations, universities, and private collections. We encompass over 200 venues in 189 countries. Our staff includes professional curators and registrars, and together we create and ship about 60 exhibitions per year, and since 2005, over 67 permanent collections have been created and installed at U.S. diplomatic facilities around the world. So we're pretty busy. And we're all we're a small staff, as we heard from our colleagues yesterday that run the Artbank programs in Australia and Canada. I think that's almost by definition. We're like these really teams, very dedicated employees that believe in the cause. But we don't have like the corporate structure of multiple staff members. So as I mentioned, we're curators, registrars, and cultural outreach and administration staff. We're a total of 7 curators, and I'm happy to be one of them. Each one of us has several exhibitions and collections in our portfolios spread around the world. So actually right now I'm working on 10 exhibitions and 8 permanent collections and different stages of completion. We partner with artists, foundations, estates, dealers, museums, and collectors worldwide. And you know, it's typical curator work. We conduct research on artists and artworks. We select and curate exhibitions and collections. We oversee installations. We provide content for our publications. And we also initiate public art programs because in theory we're the content specialists for our program. We also have 3 registrars that we couldn't live without, and they handle about $200 million of loaned artwork and more than $11.9 million of acquired art. They are responsible for consolidating, packing, crating, shipping, and installing according to professional museum standards. And then our cultural outreach and administration staff is about, it fluctuates, but it's about 7 to 8 people. So our 3 areas of concentration are temporary exhibitions, permanent collections, and cultural outreach. Thank you. Actually, I put down that our focus for our temporary exhibitions is on cultural connections, but that's also true of our permanent collections. I mean, our philosophy is every artist is a cultural ambassador, and every artwork is also a cultural ambassador or diplomatic tool. So we put everything and everybody to work in creating cultural connections. At any one time, we have some 800 lenders, 1,500 loaned artworks by U.S. citizens, and increasingly by host country artists. And this is for our temporary exhibitions. And the total value can be up to $100 million US. And it's, we feel that by including artists from the host country in the temporary exhibitions, that it broadens the cultural dialogue. It creates a real dialogue. So it's not just US artists saying, here we are. It's really about the exchange between artists from both countries. 90% of our artwork that's on loan is on, and it's free of charge. So we don't have any kind of leasing or rental program, and everything we do is overseas. It's not in the United States. We also have a repository or our own collection, and it has about 1,000 works in it. One of the main reasons why we have this art collection is for countries where maybe there's a lot of political turmoil, and it would be very difficult to get outside loans from private dealers, collectors, artists, you name it. So that's one of the primary functions of our permanent collection. We have an emphasis on World War II art in this collection, and it's primarily photography, paintings, works on paper, and some examples of sculpture. We also have historic, so it's not exclusively contemporary artwork by, or post-World War II. And that's important for some ambassadors who want to show the broad range of historic art in the United States. These exhibitions are always in the public rooms of U.S. ambassadors' residences where the public functions are held. So they don't go in the bedrooms or anything like that, in the private quarters of the ambassador. They average about 10 to 15 works. And the length, the loan period, is about 2.5 to 3 years, and that coincides with the ambassador's tour of duty. And part of that, this coinciding with the ambassador's tour of duty, is basically the idea behind the temporary exhibition. We have an initial consultation with the ambassador before he or she goes out to the country, and we talk about ideas for a theme, maybe particular artists they want to highlight. And then my job as curator is to do research to come up with artists and artworks that can support the theme. And as I mentioned here, over the years, some ambassadors are a little more risk-taking than others, but we've had ambassadors that want to look at climate change, racial diversity, the role of women, child labor, HIV/AIDS. It really can be a very broad range. And then some ambassadors say they just want to have works from their home state, maybe, you know, all landscapes from Maine. And that's what they want to have in their show. And the idea is that this exhibition once the ambassador goes to post and the works are installed in the residence, that it's a way of opening up a dialogue. As another Foreign Service kid friend of mine said, when you go into an ambassador's residence, you don't look at the carpet on the floor, you look at the artworks on the wall, and from that you start thinking about certain ideas and maybe starting a conversation. I just went too quickly, but our timeline is about 6 to 8 months, and the first half is working out the selection with the ambassador, and the other half is putting picking up the artworks, creating shipping crates, flying it to wherever in the world it's going to be, and then installing it. Now I'm going to give you a few of the examples of exhibitions that I've worked on. I've been at Art and Embassies since September of 2004. So this particular ambassador going to Cairo, Egypt, came to the meeting with an idea right away. She said, I want to draw parallels between the Mississippi River and the Nile River. And I also want to talk about a crop that we share in common, which is cotton. So these are just two examples from the show. The first one is by Matthew Hastie, and he was raised overlooking the Mississippi River and was inspired by the 19th century Hudson school painters to create this landscape showing a cotton field with a full moon rising to talk about the splendor of the natural world and the kind of quiet and meditation nature can provide. This next artist, Melanie Spillman, actually incorporated real mud into her painting of these flowers. For the exhibition in Lima, I worked with Ambassador Likens, and she wanted to draw some parallels between the very diverse landscape of Peru and the rich textile going back to the Incas that Peru has, with these similar traditions in the United States. And this particular exhibition I was very proud of because it gave me a chance to include artists that are part of the very special arts program. And this is a nonprofit dedicated to promoting artists with mental and physical disabilities. And by mainstreaming them with the other artists in the exhibition, you really can't tell the difference. And I thought that's a very powerful message to present to some countries where people with disabilities and artists in particular are maybe not treated equally. And the top example is by Catherine Clark, who has bipolar disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. But again, I don't think looking at this landscape you can really tell, and it doesn't really matter. And then the work below by Barbara Webster is a quilt, so kind of drawing the parallel between Inca textiles and then the biggest tradition in the United States in terms of textile is quilt making. So instead of being like purely traditional quilt, the design was created by manipulating photographs, but it still ends up being a floral pattern. And for this exhibition in Wellington, I really had a good time. I was a little nervous about meeting this ambassador because I had heard he had very particular tastes. And I thought, well, that could mean a lot of different things. And again, going back to being the daughter of a diplomat, I learned at a very young age, you always take your cue from the other person before you offer any opinion. So we sat down at the table, and he started talking about borrowing very famous works of art. And I thought, this is never going to happen in Wellington, but how do I break the news to him? And he said, no, actually, I really don't want to do that. I want to do something totally different, and I want you to find two artists, one from the United States and one from New Zealand. They have to be young, no gallery representation, and then they are going to be curating the exhibition together. And Ambassador Hubner was from LA, so I found a young artist from LA. And they did a lot of their work initially over the internet, you know, Facebook, FaceTime and other things like this to get to start the dialogue. And then they each went to the other country to do studio visits. They came up with a list of artists, which I had to review just to make sure there wasn't anything you know, we do have a little bit of censorship in the artwork that we show, not nearly as risque as some of the examples I saw yesterday. But we ended up with a really solid, I think, exhibition. And these two young artists wanted to look at the concept of place and what does that mean from different angles and from two different countries' perspectives. So they got so into this that they also decided they were going to create original works for the exhibition. So the American artist decided to make a trompe-l'oeil painting of the ceiling in the main dining room, so that if you were a guest and having a meal at the ambassador's residence, you would be able to look at the real ceiling and the painting of the ceiling and hopefully get confused enough by seeing these boats floating around to understand that you're in an artistic zone. And the Kiwi artist, James Brown, decided to do a painting about an astronaut looking towards his homeland, but of course, it's hard to see where his homeland is. In Addis Ababa, the ambassador I worked with during this time period decided to augment his Art and Embassies exhibition with a contest. So he invited students from the Art Academy in Addis Ababa to submit artworks that were somehow interpret President Roosevelt's 4 freedoms. And this was a way also for the ambassador to talk about the regime and the government a little bit obliquely in Ethiopia at the time. So here you see 4 examples of artworks that were initially part of an exhibition at the residence, and then because I was also the curator for the permanent collection in Addis Ababa, I thought this would be, these 4 artworks would be good to put inside the permanent collection as well. Because I do think that these 4 freedoms are hopefully universal aspirations. So now I'm going to switch to our permanent collections. In 2005, we were given the additional assignment of curating permanent collections for all new U.S. chanceries, you know, where the offices are, annex buildings, consulates, and other sort of diplomatic facilities as they are being built around the world. And for these collections, it's almost always contemporary art, so by living artists. It's in all media, so we can be a little more adventuresome, you know, by including video and new media. Some of our embassy residences are older buildings, and it would be very difficult to show video unless we just use like the TV screen. So, but for these new embassies, we can actually program into the architecture a place to show video programming. And just like we have in our temporary exhibitions, we have the range of artists in our permanent collections can go from young, emerging, to extremely well-established. And personally, as a curator, I find that very exciting to include artists from all ranges in their career and all in the same collection or exhibition as well in different media. It keeps it very exciting for me. So the process here, it's changed in the last few years. In the old days, we were brought in after the building was fully designed, and we were told, here are 10 places to put art, go find something. That, of course, makes cultural sense, but still, we were not part of the initial process, and now we are. So we go to initial meetings with the architects and engineers and landscape architects to figure out together as a team what are the best art locations, and is it possible to put art in a certain location, and try to maximize the compatibility with the architecture and the landscape design, with the idea that once the art collection is installed, it will help humanize the building and create a conversation. So the artworks, we select the artworks either by acquiring existing works of art, or we can commission new works of art. And then with the help of our registrars, actually we do the negotiation of pricing. We try to get discounts for the US government. And we have an elaborate procurement process, which we also are kind of in charge of. And then we turn the process over to our registrars, and they are responsible for shipping. And even though the curators oversee the installation, we usually have a local installation team assisting us with putting the artworks up on the walls, or in this case, standing free. This is a huge piece, so it's not one of my collections, but it's kind of fascinating because if you go up and touch it, it reacts to the sense of touch. If we have money and it's in a country where it makes sense, we also try to put artwork on the exterior grounds so that even people that are not coming inside the US Embassy grounds can maybe see it if they're walking or driving their car or what have you, to try to get the art a little bit outside of the building so more people can see the art collections. As you can see here, since 2005, we've curated some 67 collections, and we have more than 30 in development. And these collections as a total include some 50 site-specific commissions and over 5,000 works of art. So these are pretty big. The current building plans are, well, let me back up. The old building plans were sort of like cookie cutters. I don't know how this is going to translate, but the idea was to turn out as many new embassies as possible in the shortest period of time. So there is almost the same design for each embassy. It didn't really matter where in the world it was. And what they did for those buildings is that they would include like an area that they would call the art gallery. So there you could put maybe 30 works of art all in one place, sort of imitating a museum setting. But now there's been a change, and we're trying to design our buildings to be culturally sensitive as well. So in that case, now each building is different, and they've gotten rid of these gallery spaces. So there are less number of art locations, but the challenges are greater because they usually means you have to do a site-specific commission, which in terms of managing is more hands-on, especially when the commissions are in the host country. That means a lot of traveling back and forth to make sure that everything is going according to plan and on time. So as the objective, as I mentioned earlier, is to strengthen our presence through cultural alliances. And when we do our research, we typically go and do a site visit first, and we try to meet with artists and art organization type people. It's like you have maybe 1 week to understand, like as they say, full immersion into the country. Try to understand all aspects. And it's a little crazy, shall we say, to imagine you can do this in a week, but we try very hard. And then we go back and we think, okay, what have I learned from this country? What are my takeaway experiences and thoughts? And from there, you develop a theme or maybe several themes that you want to highlight. And then the curators go back to the United States, and we try to figure out artworks that would create dialogues by US artists and the host country artists. And of course, I just said we can't possibly become experts in all these different countries so quickly, so we form alliances with art experts in those host countries. Going to Monrovia, the collection in Liberia that I put together was my third. And I found that Liberia was a big challenge. This is a country that is still recovering from about 20 years of civil war. It was a very brutal civil war. And when I did my initial visit, there was, in the capital, Monrovia, there was still very, very limited water. Garbage hadn't been collected in, let's say, 25 years. very little lighting. You know, I said, can I take a walk on the beach? And they said, no, because you might start stepping on things you don't want to. And it was really challenging to try to understand the complexity and also the history. Liberia was settled by freed American slaves in the 1820s and 1830s. And so that in itself also lends another dimension of how you have to take all of this into consideration when selecting themes and deciding on the artists. So one of the things that they're trying to do to rebuild the country is emphasize education. And I also knew at the same time that before the freed American slaves came over to settle the land, the actual territories had very strong mask-making traditions, but the different tribes fought amongst themselves. So I didn't want to acquire a contemporary mask because that would set up a problem with the other tribes or territories that I didn't. I'd have to have masks from each one of them. So instead, I already knew this artist, Doug Bube, and I said, hey, I know you work with altered books, found books, he recycles them. And I said, would you be interested in creating a work in the shape of a mask? And he said, yes, so that's what you're seeing here. And the completed work I put in the library section of the new U.S. Embassy. And the other thing that really struck me about the Liberian artists is this absolute passion for their homeland and this desire, no matter what, to see it rebuilt and grow back and even transcend its original beauty and glory. So here is just one example of a street scene by Leslie Lumet. Now, towards the end of, I'd finished the interior collection, and I had a little bit of money left over. So I thought, okay, we're going to put something on the outside. And I didn't have a lot of time. To be exact, I had 48 hours before my fund site would close. So all the money left over for this one project was, if I didn't obligate the funds, I was going to lose the money. So I was going to a local art fair in Washington, D.C., and I ran into a colleague, and I said, I need recommendations, like right now, of artists that you think could do a project in Liberia and, you know, would understand all the difficulties in doing something like this. And she gave me 3 names, and I decided to work with Working Man Collective because they had finished a project in Haiti, and I thought, okay, I think, you know, they will at least get some of the challenges of the project. So I called up one of the 2. I actually called up Tom Ashcraft, and I said, would you be interested in putting together a proposal for an outdoor sculpture at the U.S. Embassy in Liberia? And he sort of, there was a little bit of silence, and he said, sure. And he said, how much time do I have? And I said, 24 hours. So he said, well, okay. So he got one of his other colleagues, Peter Wynett. They're both professors. They teach art at a local university in Washington, D.C. And we sent them to Liberia, and they just, you know, got to the ground running. They met all sorts of people, and one of the things that, again, they noticed was 2 real issues as education and the fact that there'd been so much civil war that children were afraid of playing. I mean, so they said, okay, we're going to come up with a visual metaphor for this. And they decided to create 4 cast bronze desk chairs like this without the seat. And they're still a little bit, you call it mysterious about the meaning not to have a seat on the chair. But so I leave that up to your imagination. But on each one of these desk chairs, there's a little bird, which is the national bird of Liberia. So they're on the grounds of the embassy, these 4. But that was only one part of the commission called Story. They also partnered in another outside of Monrovia in Wenatown. They collaborated with the Chicago Bright Foundation to create a playground, and their idea there was that once the playground was completed, children and their families could go and socialize and talk about things and talk about more stories. Uh-oh, do we need to go out of the building? What is this? Fire alarm? Should we worry? It's okay? All right, okay, so, but I'm sure this is one image of the children playing, but at the opening of the playground, there's this wonderful photograph of all the kids just so excited that they have a safe place to, and things to do on the playground. And the other thing that's fascinating, it goes back to the history of Liberia, is they have a very strong quilt making tradition. And when the original settlers went over in the 1820s and 1830s, they took the traditional quilt making patterns that they had learned as slaves on plantations. So the lady, if they're all women quilt makers, I can tell another funny story about that, but all the ladies that make quilts know how they have carried on these traditions. So they can do like maybe a rose pattern or a coffee pattern, and then increasingly they're doing village scenes to try to be a little more contemporary. So it's not just these traditional patterns. So what Working Man Collective did with the quilt makers is that they partnered with them to create a visual document of the desk chairs. I don't know if you can see that in the image, with the idea that they are going to sell, in addition, they're going to sell the quilts in the United States to help raise money, and the money will go back to Liberia. So from starting to ask them and giving them 24 hours to come up with yes or no, are you interested in doing a project, for just being inside the embassy grounds, they created something that I think is truly amazing and has changed the lives of many people in Liberia. It's definitely changed their life too, that's for sure. And another project that I'm working on, it's not completed yet. If all goes well, I'll finish the permanent collection in Oslo this fall. And there I decided to, for the signature, the most important outdoor sculpture, I decided to contact a sculptor friend of mine who is teaching sculpture at Bennington College in Vermont. And I said, could we do something with Bennington College? And he and the president of Bennington College were very excited, so they put together a cross-disciplinary team of students that was headed by my friend John Isherwood, and also a woman who teaches conflict resolution. And they put together, as I said, this year-long curriculum. In the first part of the year, in the fall, they studied public art as a diplomatic tool. That was sort of basic examples, and just thinking about what does this mean to put a work of art in technically what is U.S. soil, as you probably all know, but it's in another country. And then they did extensive research in all areas of Norway, their history, their ecology, their landscape, their culture, you name it. It was incredible to work with these students. And after doing a lot of thinking, they decided the most pressing issue was the Arctic Circle. And so then they started using complexity drawings to map out all the different pathways, whether it's boats or fish or airplanes or polar bears that cross the Arctic. And so you create these pathways, and then at each point, and you'll see this in the next slide, at each point is a representation of the 8 countries that form the Arctic Council. And then on the island where the finished sculpture is going to sit, right in front of the main entrance, there are going to be one example by each of the 8 Arctic Council, the flowers. So it'll be like, again, a 3-part commission. So in the upper left, you see it's polar bears. And then it's big enough. You can see it's going to be in marble. It's actually being created right now in Italy out of one big block of marble. And then using digital tools, they cut the initial design. And now John Isherwood is spending time in Italy doing the finishing work by hand. And afterwards, it's going to be loaded on a truck. The truck already has its own crane by a group of English installers. It's going to go from Italy to Norway, and then, as I said, if all goes well, before the ground freezes, we will be installing it in either late September or October of this year. And if not, then we have to wait for the spring. Too much snow. So briefly, I'll talk about our cultural outreach program and some of our special projects. So we've been doing cultural outreach in addition to exhibitions and now collections since 2002. And it's a way to get the message out beyond the specific grounds of the U.S. ambassador's residence or the embassy itself. And when we celebrated our 50th anniversary a few years ago, we also launched several initiatives that continue to the present day. One of our main methods of cultural outreach is doing artist exchanges. And this is when we send artists who have a work on view either in a temporary exhibition or in a permanent collection, or we're sending them overseas the way we did with Working Man Collective because they're doing initial research for a commission. And we send them for something that's very, very intense, very short term, usually about a week to 10 days, and they do all sorts of educational outreach programming. And these programs can include tours, interviews, workshops, lectures, community projects, studio visits, art making, media interviews and things like this. The artists are expected to engage with local audiences and partners. And these partners can include artists, art professionals, academics, students, government officials, as well as the general public. So this is a wonderful example of working with a young artist. One of my colleagues went to the graduating MFA thesis exhibition at one of our local universities and saw this installation using found pieces of fabric and clothing by Tori Griesing. And when she had her initial consultation with the U.S. ambassador going to Gaborone, she said, would you be interested in having this young artist create a site-specific commission for your temporary exhibition? And the ambassador said yes. So we sent her over to Gaborone, and here's an image of her talking to local artists. And it was, she said, when Tori came back, she said it was initially a little awkward because these artists still thought that art was defined by paint on canvas or paper, and the idea of making an art installation out of fabric or pieces of clothing was really strange to them. But then they kept talking, and here she's showing them how you create almost like a spider web. And then this is the finished piece. So when the collection was, when the exhibition was packed up at the end of the ambassador's tour, this also disappeared. In 2015, we had our second presentation of Medal of Arts Awards, and it's unique to the State Department. It is a U.S. State Department. It is a way of recognizing a group of international artists who have been particularly committed and generous to the State Department and art and embassies and our mission of cultural diplomacy. We also work with Native Americans, not only in featuring their work in our exhibitions and collections, but we've also partnered in creating suites of screen prints. And this is just the cover of the catalog for our second collaboration with the American Institute of, the Institute of American Indian Arts. And what's great about creating these portfolios is that once they're finished, we can put them in embassies and all over the world. They're ready to go. We don't have to ask for loans or wait for the procurement process. And it's quite a range, as you can see from the cover, from abstract to something that is more tribally inspired. We have something we call contemporary conversations. I don't know if, Tammy, if you went to this one. Did you go to this one? Okay, so we started this. Our initial partnership was with the U.S. Embassy in London and Tate Modern. And we have, I think it's still ongoing. We have two U.S. artists, one in the spring and one in the fall, that engages in conversation. It's a public dialogue at the Tate, and now we've started doing it at the Reina Sofia in Madrid, as well as the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa. And here there's an image of the artist Nick Cave with one of his sound suits, the image on stage. And he was, after there was this public discussion, but in addition, he worked, I believe, did a workshop with students, and a lot of other, we put our artists that do exchanges and these kinds of educational program, we really work them hard. It's not a vacation, and some of them are shocked to learn that they can't just, do whatever they want. Each one of our residencies, I'm jumping back to the residencies, each one is unique. When we might come up with an idea and select the artist, but then we work very closely with the cultural affairs people at whatever country to figure out exactly what would be the best kind of programming to do. We do most of the time bilingual or multilingual publications for our exhibitions and catalogs, and this is a way to say thank you to the people that have lent or who have participated in our program, as well as, they are given out during events as a way of extending the life of the project, sort of educational tools. It's also a great way for artists. Many of the artists we work with have never participated in an international exhibition, or they're part of an international collection. So it's very exciting for them to have an actual physical catalog to validate their efforts. We have an interactive website, which we're always trying to improve. It documents not only our exhibitions, but also our permanent collections. All U.S. states and regions are represented. We represent, right now, there are about 3,300 artists' work, their bios, links to their own individual websites. We have lots of media, videos, and press coverage. And the other thing that we have, which is very important to us, is a registry for artists, so that they can have their works considered. And we have social media, and I'm just leaving you with an excerpt from my curator's notes from the catalog for Liberia, which talks about the importance of each artist's voice and each work of art to get to come together and create a dialogue that shares, that talks about our shared humanity. Thank you very much.
我们非常谢谢 Sarah Tanguy 的非常丰富的内容哈。其实我刚刚听了她的整个的演讲的内容， 我深刻的感受到说，Sarah 她从小儒养的环境里面，其实是对于不只是艺术本身，它的文化的力量，同时呢，她也要对环境，对于她要接触的人，都要对她要去进行的一种外交功能，她其实都要有非常深入浅出的了解。那所以在刚刚的整个的过程里面呢，让我非常惊讶的就是在于说，你会发现他所做的工作，不只是选一件作品，然后把它从这个墙上挂到另外一个墙上，在这个过程，它其实只是一个物质性的转换，空间转换。他所做的呢，甚至是要撩动整个的生态，我指的是人的生态，譬如说，他如何说服一位很保守的大使，或者一个有疯狂想法的大使，他要如何去完成这样的计划？同时，他到了不一样的社区，他要如何用艺术的力量，透过一个集体，譬如说，他会找艺术家来这个 commission 就是委托他创作，然后呢，可能会带动社区去参与这样一个计划。所以在这个过程里面，我们会发现他所做的工作呢，不只是一个，我们知道他也是个非常好的作者他能够写文章。然后呢，在这个过程里面呢，他其实在传递讯息的方法里面，它是相当多重的。那包括人的界面，然后要经常在非常短的时间，甚至在物质资源缺乏或者经费有限的状况之下，如何去创造艺术的能量，在一个有效的方法里面。我想这是一个策展人很重要的核心工作，不是只是处理艺术品本身，有关于资源的调度，有关于如何跟他的 registrar， 他刚刚讲了好几次，我不晓得我们中文的翻译是什么他其实是应该就是文物的保护员跟这样子的人共同工作。他靠他们集体的力量，一个是处理艺术的内容，一个是处理艺术的形式的物质性的保护。用这样一个方法，在不同的环境里面去从事一种非常具有创造性的文化行动。那我想我们只有短短的时间，不知道大家有没有对他这样子的一个做法，还有他刚刚提到的在手册里面没有，可是很精彩的案例有没有一些提问？请林志明老师。
Just one small question for you. There's a award of art in embassy, 2015, I think, and we can recognize Xu Bing, a Chinese artist, in that list. Yeah, that's awardee. And I'm curious that you have a selection of international artists, and how can they represent U.S. in the world? How can you, what's the logic that to select a list of international artists to represent U.S. in the world? Yeah.
Well, it's not just representing the United States. Is this on? Yeah. Okay, good. It's not just representing U.S. artists and the United States. We're really trying to create a dialogue and engage all these different countries. So, Xu Bing has work in the permanent collection in Beijing at the U.S. Embassy there. And he's been extremely helpful to us. But every other year we're going to highlight other artists. But it's the idea that we're all one big family, not just the U.S.
好，我们大家有听到翻译哈，我再做一个补充。其实，用艺术来代表什么这件事情，它不必然是要代表一个国家，属于一个政治的概念，一个公共政体的概念。很多时候，一个国家让一个国际上面很重要的艺术家作为代表的时候，它其实代表的是更广大的文化议题，更广大的关怀， 以至于你可以知道，在威尼斯双年展很多国家馆里面，它展的不是那个国家的艺术家，好，反而是那个广度、包容度，作为一个国家对于文化的一些前瞻性的看法，我想这也是它很重要的功能。好，我们很谢谢这个提问，也问出了一个很关键的这个议题。还有没有其他的问题？好，请。
首先我很羡慕又嫉妒，就是美国他们有这个强权跟那种文化资源去推动他们自己当地他们国内自己的艺术家，而且愿意扶植年轻艺术家。然后我也比较好奇的是说，美国政府他们一年花在多少经费在这个推动这些上面？然后还有就是他们跟艺术家合作，然后他们跟艺术家就是收购，或者是说请他们去做展览，他们那些比如说买一个作品的那个经费，它的那个价格是怎么定的？比如说是艺术家他自己提出来他们的价钱，还是说美国政府他们自己去跟他们谈，还是说他们是用另外一个第三者，比如说艺廊的一个平台去界定他们的那种合作方式？这是我的问题，谢谢。
We there are sort of two sides of the house, as I was explaining. We have exhibitions and collections. The exhibitions are, we don't determine those budgets. They are set by the corresponding bureaus at the State Department. I mean, I know that sounds a bit contradictory because I also work for the State Department, but there is a fixed amount of money, let's say, for all sub-Saharan African countries. And it basically comes down to a shipping budget. So we do not pay loan fees, unfortunately, for these temporary exhibitions. We just don't get enough money. And ultimately, it's our Congress, and talk about hard convincing job to try to convince our Congress that supporting the arts is an important job. That's an ongoing challenge. But even though we don't have enough money to pay for loan fees, we do cover all loan-related expenses, so the artist is not put out. But we still have people or dealers that say no thank you, because in their minds it's tying up a potential sale of an artwork for 2.5 to 3 years, and we completely understand that. So that's sort of how the exhibitions are funded. The permanent collections, it's a different model altogether. We get currently 0.5% of the overall construction budget for a new building. And so that's going to vary from new building to new building. But with that 0.5%, we can create a collection. In addition to acquiring and commissioning artworks, that budget has to include all transportation, the publication, and those are, installation, the basic. Initially, it might sound like, oh, wow, I got a lot of money to play with, but in the end, you really don't have that much money. Okay, my time is up, but let me finish the thought. So in terms of buying art or setting a price for a commission, it's a dance. We can't come out right and say, this is how much money we have, in truth, because we are juggling maybe 5 or 6 commissions and maybe another 20 artworks. But we do go back and forth. There's a lot of negotiation. In the end, we, of course, try to get some kind of discount, the same way that maybe a museum gets 15 or 20%, and we say, please, it's, almost like your patriotic duty. This is for a larger cause, and hopefully, you have other ways of supporting yourself besides this one acquisition. And we do try to do other things to help promote the artists. So it really varies. Like for an emerging artist, maybe they don't have gallery representation. So we work directly with the artist to figure out what we consider fair. Both parties have to mutually agree on the price. And if it's a better known artist, for sure, then we're working with at least one dealer, sometimes more than one dealer.
好，我们谢谢 Sarah。有关于这一位年轻观众的提问呢，我做一个简单的补充。好，第一个就是说， 你可能问的不是整个美国政府，你要问的是 Sarah 所代表的这个机构是 AIE， 它是甘乃迪总统时期建构起来的一个从事这样子的一个特殊任务的一个机构。好，所以我们可以想象，对我们的政府来讲，或许应该成立一个独特的机构，透过这个机构来执行这样的事情。第二件重要的事情是说，永远没有钱给够的时候，这就是为什么我们需要策展人，我们需要社区，我们需要有一些对话的机构。所以你会发现在 Sarah 很多的案子里面呢，她其实是一个创造者，她不是只是处理艺术，她要去沟通，然后得到足够的资源来去完成她所要执行的计划。所以钱永远没有充分的一天，而是说它连结大家对于艺术作为文化功能的一种认同，这个时候它的力量就会变得很大。好，我们也期望台湾呢能够在政府部门有更加重视这样子的事务的这种机构能够发生。换一句话说，像台北市立美术馆、还有台中国立台湾美术馆一样，我们办的威尼斯双年展，不是只是美术馆本身的预算，我们其实是要跟国家、跟外交部、跟教育部去申请很多的经费，它才能够完成一个真正能够出国的一个巨大的文化任务。好，我们非常谢谢 Sarah 带给我们这么精彩的一些内容，可以给我们很多的回响，谢谢大家。
我们再次谢谢 Sarah 以及林馆长带来如此精彩的分享。那我们接下来早上的论坛场次就在这里告一个段落。那我们接下来是用餐时间，下午场的场次是在1点半的时间开始。那再麻烦各位来宾，有参与下午场次的来宾，请在1点半的时候回到我们的现场来。那如果有来宾您手上有问卷，那您下午可能不会出席的，再麻烦协助帮我们进行填写，然后交到我们的服务前台，谢谢。